Vivid verses.
To understand the collapse, you have to look at the inciting incident. We were at that boutique in a trendy district, the one where the security guard judges your credit score by your shoes before unlocking the glass door. Maya stopped in front of a display. It was a clutch. Black leather, gold hardware, size of a hardcover book. She pointed at it. She didn't ask if I liked it. She said she wanted it. I checked the tag. For $1,000. Now, you know my books. I'm liquid. The construction firm had a banner year. The portfolio is diversified, and the cash flow is positive. I could buy the bag. The capability wasn't the issue. The logic was, we've been discussing the duplex on the south side for 6 months. We've been talking about building equity, moving out of the rental, securing a tangible asset. That $4,000 is closing costs. It's a fraction of a down payment. It's an appreciating asset versus a liability that loses 20% of its value the second the receipt prints. I told her no. I didn't say I can't. I didn't offer a consolation prize. I said, that doesn't fit the plan, Maya. We're capitalizing for the house. I'm not misallocating $4,000 on an accessory right now. She looked at me. It wasn't anger at first. It was a malfunction in her expectations. She's used to me bending on the small variance items to keep the project moving. But $4,000 isn't a variance. That's a fundamental change in the budget. She didn't argue. She just went quiet. The temperature in the car dropped 10 degrees. We walked back to the parking garage, and the silence started. Not the comfortable silence of two people secure in their proximity. The heavy, weaponized silence. The kind that demands you ask, what's wrong? Just so she can tell you that you're the error in the system. I didn't ask. I drove. I put on a podcast about commercial zoning laws. I focused on the traffic patterns. We got home, ate dinner in front of the TV. She went to bed early. When I got in beside her, she initiated the protocol. You know the move. She rolled to the far edge of the mattress, back to me, pulling the duvet tight. It's a physical wall. It's a billboard that says, access to intimacy is suspended until you rectify the financial grievance. Usually, this is the part where I place a hand on her shoulder. I initiate the negotiation. I offer a compromise, but I lay there and looked at the ceiling. I ran the numbers. We've been doing this dance for a month. Last week, it was the restaurant reservation I failed to secure, resulting in a 48-hour freeze-out. The week before, it was because I prioritized the Sunday game with you over a farmer's market. The frequency of these sanctions was increasing. The cost of doing business with Maya was rising. The overhead was becoming unsustainable. I realized something right then. She wasn't upset about the bag. She was upset that I had boundaries. She was using withdrawal as leverage. It's a transaction. Her affection in exchange for my compliance. I decided not to buy. I rolled over, faced the window, and went to sleep. The next morning, the apartment was a tactical zone. I woke up at 6. Standard operating procedure. Usually, I move quietly to let her sleep. Today, I moved at standard volume. I opened the blinds, lighted the room. She stayed in bed, buried under the covers. She was awake. I could verify it by her breathing pattern. It was controlled, shallow. She was waiting for the apology. She was waiting for me to crawl back into bed and hover, to beg for a return to baseline. I went to the kitchen. I made coffee. I made eggs and toast. The smell filled the place. She emerged 20 minutes later. She was wearing that silk robe, arms crossed, hair tied back tightly. She didn't look at me. She walked past the island where I was eating, opened the fridge, stared into the void of the shelves, and closed it. This is the trap. This is where I'm supposed to say, I made coffee. Do you want a cup? Or are you hungry? I didn't. I continued eating. I read the commodities report on my phone. She poured herself a glass of water. She stood by the sink, back to me, drinking it slowly. The silence was loud. It was designed to be suffocating. She was projecting misery, creating a vacuum that I was supposed to rush in and fill with reassurance. I finished my eggs. I rinsed the plate and racked it in the dishwasher. I poured the rest of the coffee into my travel mug. "I'm heading out," I said. Not a question, a statement of fact. She didn't turn. She didn't acknowledge the sound of my voice. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. The air outside felt cleaner. That's a bad data point. When leaving your domestic environment feels like taking a breath of fresh air, the HVAC is broken. I got in the truck and realized I wasn't worried. I wasn't anxious about her anger. I was relieved I didn't have to manage it. I went to the site. We had a pour schedule for the foundation on the spec house on the north side. Complex job. Hillside lot, step footings. I focused on the concrete. I focused on the crew. Logistics. Timelines. Rebar spacing. Things that behave according to the laws of physics. If concrete cracks, it's because of the mix, the hydration, or the load. It's not cracking to teach you a lesson. It's not cracking because it feels undervalued. I checked my phone at lunch. No texts. Usually by now I'd have sent 3. Hope your morning improved. Thinking of you. I looked at the blank screen. I put it back in my pocket. That night, I came home late. I went to the gym after work. I hit the heavy bag for an hour. Physical exertion clears the static. When I walked in, the apartment was dark. She was on the couch, watching some reality show. She didn't look up. I walked into the kitchen. "I ate already," I said. Silence. "I'm going to shower." Silence. I showered. I went into the den and worked on the laptop for 2 hours. I heard her go to the bedroom. I heard the door click shut. I slept in the guest room. I told myself it was because I had an early start and didn't want to wake her. But that was a lie. I slept in the guest room because the master bedroom had become a negotiation table, and I wasn't interested in the terms. By the 4th day, the dynamic had solidified into a Cold War. We were roommates who acted like strangers. I kept a routine. Up at 6. Coffee. Gym. Work. I started seeing the mechanism of it clearly. It's a siege. She's cutting off supply lines. Intimacy, conversation, partnership, waiting for the city to starve and surrender. But she miscalculated my reserves. I'm self-sustaining. I can cook. I can clean. I have a job that demands my focus and friends who don't require emotional labor to be around. She, on the other hand, was vibrating with tension. I saw it in the periphery. When I was in the kitchen, she'd sigh loudly. She'd slam cupboard doors. Not hard enough to break them, just hard enough to register on the auditory spectrum. She was escalating the noise because the silence wasn't yielding results. I treated her like a subcontractor I didn't get along with, but had to share a job site with. Polite, professional, distant. Trash is out, I'd say. Rent check is on the counter. I'll be gone this weekend. That one got a reaction. I was in the living room, lacing up my boots. She stopped mid-stride in the hallway. "Gone where?" she asked. Her voice was rusty, sharp. "Camping with Dave and the guys. Planned it a month ago." I didn't look up. I focused on a knot in my laces. "You're going camping?" "Yeah." "We haven't spoken in 4 days, Julian." I stood up. I looked at her. I didn't glare. I just observed. "I know. You haven't had much to say. And you're just going to leave? I'm not going to sit here and watch you ignore me, Maya. I have plans. I'm keeping them." I walked past her. I felt her eyes on my back. It felt like a laser sight. She wanted a fight. A fight is engagement. A fight means I care enough to get angry. I wasn't angry. I was bored. The camping trip was the control group in this experiment. No signal. Fire. Meat. Simple problems. We sat around the fire that Saturday night. Dave asked how things were. I didn't vent. I didn't whine. I just laid out the facts. She wanted a $4,000 bag. I said no. She hasn't spoken to me since Tuesday. Dave looked at the fire. "That's a heavy tax on a no, man." "It's a tariff," I said. "She's putting a tariff on my autonomy. If I make a decision she doesn't like, I pay a penalty. The goal is to make the penalty so high that next time I just buy the bag to avoid the silence. So what are you doing? I'm not paying. Dave nodded. He knows the score. He's divorced. He knows what happens when you start paying the tariff. You run out of currency. I realized out there in the woods that I wasn't missing her. I was missing the idea of us. I was missing the partner I thought I had, the one who understood that we were building a future. The woman back in the apartment wasn't a partner. She was an adversary negotiating for resources. I drove back Sunday night. I felt the dread building as I got closer to the city limits. That's a critical indicator. Home should be the recharge station. If home is the battery drain, the system is defective. I walked in Sunday night. The apartment was spotless. She'd been cleaning. Aggressive cleaning. The kind where you scrub the baseboards to work off the rage. She was sitting at the dining table. No TV, no phone, just sitting. This was the escalation. The passive phase failed. The active phase was beginning. We need to talk, she said. I put my bag down. Okay. I sat opposite her. I didn't lean in. I sat back, hands on the table. Open. You abandoned me this weekend, she said. I went on a trip I told you about a month ago. You left while we were fighting. We weren't fighting, Maya. You weren't speaking to me. There's a difference. Because you hurt me, you dismissed me. I told you I wasn't spending $4,000 on a purse. That's not a dismissal. That's a financial decision. She slammed her hand on the table. It's not about the bag, Julian. It's about you not caring about what I want. It's about you making unilateral decisions. I make the money, I said. I pay the rent. I pay the savings. I manage the portfolio. When you want to withdraw $4,000 of capital for a vanity item, that requires my sign-off. If that makes me a dictator, fine. But I'm not tanking our liquidity so you can impress people we don't like. You're cold, she said. She started crying. Tears used to be the nuclear option. I used to fold the second the eyes glazed over. I watched her cry. I analyzed the situation. She was using distress to bypass logic. It's a defense mechanism. If she's the victim, I'm the aggressor, and the original issue, her silent treatment, her demand, gets buried. I didn't move to hug her. I didn't offer a tissue. I'm not cold, I said. I'm practical. And I'm tired, Maya. I'm tired of the punishment. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. You ignore me for a week because I said no to a purchase. That's not a relationship. That's a hostage situation. I ignored you because I was hurt. You ignored me to manipulate me, and it didn't work. So now you're yelling to get a reaction. That's not going to work either. She looked at me with genuine shock. She realized in that moment that the controls were disconnected. She was pressing the buttons, but the machine wasn't whirring. I'm going to bed, I said. I have an inspection in the morning. I left her at the table. The following 2 weeks were strange. The silence stopped, replaced by a frantic, nervous energy. She was trying to reset the board. She cooked dinner 3 nights in a row. She bought me a shirt. She tried to initiate sex. I declined. You can't rewind the tape. You can't spend 10 days treating me like a ghost and then expect me to jump back in because you decided the punishment is over. The trust is gone. I looked at her and I didn't see my girlfriend. I saw a volatile variable. I saw someone who would pull the plug on our connection the moment she didn't get her way. I accepted the food. I said thank you, but I didn't engage. I kept the conversations logistical. How was work? She'd ask, eyes wide, desperate. Fine. Concrete is curing on schedule. Do you want to watch a movie? No. I have some reading to do. I was already moving out. I was just doing it internally first. I was disentangling my life from hers. I stopped factoring her into the long-term projections. The house we were saving for? I started looking at smaller places. Places for one. She sensed it. She tried harder. She became the perfect girlfriend, but it felt performative. It was a strategy shift, not a character change. She was doing it to regain control, to get me back to the baseline where she could operate. I didn't hate her. I just didn't trust her. And without trust, the logistics don't work. It ended on a Tuesday, exactly 1 month after the bag incident. I came home. She was there, wearing a new dress. She'd clearly been shopping. "I made reservations at that Italian place you like," she said. I put my keys in the bowl. I looked at the apartment. "We've been here 2 years. It's a nice place. Good light, but the air is stale. I'm not going to dinner, Maya." She froze. "Why?" "It's Tuesday. Date night. We need to discuss the lease." "The lease? It's not up for another 6 months." I spoke to the landlord. "I'm breaking it." She sat down on the arm of the sofa. The color drained out of her face. "What are you talking about?" "I'm moving out," I said. "I found a place closer to the site. I've already paid the deposit." "You're leaving me?" Her voice was small. "I'm ending the relationship." "Because of a bag?" "Julian, that's insane." I dropped it. "I haven't brought it up in weeks." "It's not the bag," I said. I sat on the coffee table, facing her. I kept my voice level. "It's the month that followed. It's the silence. It's the manipulation. You show me how you handle conflict. You punish. You withdraw. You try to break me down. I was emotional. I know. And I can't build a life with that kind of volatility. I need a partner, Maya, not an adversary. I need to know that if I say no to something, I don't lose my home life for 2 weeks. I can change. I'll stop. I promise." "You might," I said, "but I'm already gone. I checked out 2 weeks ago when you looked through me like I didn't exist in my own kitchen. I can't unfeel that." I stood up. "I'll cover the rent here for the next 2 months. That give you time to find a roommate or a new place. I'm taking my personal stuff tonight. Movers will come for the furniture on Saturday. You can keep the TV and the dining set. Logistics. Clean. Fair." She started to cry again. Real tears this time. Panic tears. The reality was hitting her. The safety net was gone. The bank of Julian was closed. I felt a pang of pity, but I didn't feel regret. I went to the bedroom. I packed 2 suitcases. Essentials. Clothes. Toiletries. My laptop. When I walked back out, she was still on the sofa, staring at the floor. She looked young and lost. "Goodbye, Maya," I said. She didn't answer. She went silent again. But this time, it wasn't a weapon. It was just defeat. I walked out the door. I locked it. I dropped the key through the mail slot. I got in the truck. I drove to the new place. It's a studio. Small. Empty. Echoey. I sat on the floor with a pizza and a beer. It was quiet, but it was my quiet. It was the silence of peace, not the silence of war. I took a bite of the pizza. I took a sip of the beer. I breathed. And that's the autopsy. You can call it cold if you want. But in my line of work, if the structure is compromised, you don't patch it. You condemn it, you demo it, and you build something else on a solid foundation. I had time to think in that new studio. The first few nights were just about decompression. You don't realize how much noise you're living with until it stops. And I don't mean audio noise. I mean the psychic noise of walking around a sensor grid, waiting to trip an alarm. I went back to the old apartment that Saturday with the movers. I timed it when I knew she'd be at her yoga class. It wasn't avoidance. It was efficiency. Scenes don't help anyone. The guys cleared the big stuff, the sofa I bought before we met, the heavy oak dresser, the desk. I did a final sweep. I found a few of her things mixed in with mine. A charger, a scarf. I put them on the counter. I looked at the space one last time. It looked smaller without the furniture. It looked like just a box of drywall and laminate flooring. That's all it ever was. We project home onto these boxes, but without the software of a functioning relationship. It's just hardware. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Are you really doing this? We can fix this." I didn't reply. Engaging is reopening the negotiation. The contract was voided. There was nothing to fix. I drove the truck to the studio. It took 3 hours to unpack. I set up the bed. I set up the coffee maker. I put my books on the shelf. Dave came over later that week. He brought a housewarming bottle. We stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. "You look better," he said. "I sleep better," I said. "Hear from her. She texts. I don't answer. Cold. Necessary," I corrected. If I answer, I give her hope. Hope is cruel in this scenario. It delays her adaptation to the new reality. "You miss her?" I took a sip of the whiskey. I thought about it. Did I miss the Maya who laughed at my jokes? Sure. Did I miss the Maya who turned her back on me for a week because of a handbag? No. And since they occupy the same body, I can't have one without the other. I miss the potential, I said. I miss the plan. But the plan failed. You don't mourn the blueprint when the building collapses. You draw a new blueprint. We're picked up. The north side house finished the foundation phase and went to framing. I like framing. It's honest. You see the skeleton of the thing. You see exactly where the load goes. There's no drywall to hide the mistakes. I started dating again about 6 months later. A woman named Sarah. She's an architect. We speak the same language. On our third date, we walked past that same boutique. The one with the guard. She glanced at the window. "Nice bag," she said. I tensed up. Old reflex. "Yeah. Expensive." She laughed. "Ridiculously expensive. You could re-roof a garage for that price." "Who buys that?" I looked at her. I smiled. "People with different priorities." "Let's go," she said. "I'm hungry. I know a place that does actual food, not foam on a plate." We walked away from the window. And that's the coda. The postscript. It's been a year now. The studio is full. I bought a rug, put up some art. It feels lived in. Maya called me once, about 3 months ago. Late at night. I let it go to voicemail, listened to it the next morning. She was crying, said she missed me and made a mistake. She hasn't found anyone else. I deleted the message. It's not vengeance. It's not malice. It's just that I don't have the bandwidth for retrofitting a condemned structure. I'm building new. So, pour another one. That's the whole file. Case closed. You learn to read the stress fractures before they turn into breaks. You learn that silence is data. And you learn that the most expensive thing in the world isn't a $4,000 handbag. It's a partner who costs you your peace.
Thanks for listening.